This is a video called Helping a Frightened Dog Quickly, and this is the dog, Mira, a 3-month-old female Chihuahua. So this is what she did as soon as I went into her cage, pretty much went as far away from me as possible, and she's giving off all the classic signs of being scared here. Her tail's between her legs, she's shaking, she's yawning, licking her lips. So I went up to her here and just offered my hand because there's really not a lot of time in the shelter to wait for a dog to come up to you, which would probably be ideal, but it's okay as long as you don't think you're going to be bitten to go up and kind of move the thing forward. So I'm giving her my hand here, letting her smell it. She's smelling, which is a good thing. If she was just looking at me and not sniffing, then it'd be much harder to get through to her. So I'm trying to get her to come over to me. No dice, she's not coming. So the next thing I did here is to take her into a room because at the shelter that I work at, we're not allowed to walk small puppies. So the best thing I could do is to take her to an area where she's not going to feel trapped. So I took her to this large room with closed off doors so she can kind of run around and be free. And I can be with her at the same time not being so close to her that she's going to be uncomfortable. But we're working on getting her to come closer to me and getting closer to her in order to teach her that I don't mean her any harm. So at this point, she's just kind of sniffing around the area. And what I do here is she came up to me, but and I didn't record all the interaction I had with her. But what I would do is when she's off sniffing or doing her own thing, I would walk up to her, pick her up, and maybe pet her a little bit, and then put her down. And I put her down away from me, and then I walk away from her and sit down. And repeating that behavior on my part, which is approaching her, petting her, or maybe not doing anything at all, and then turning around and walking away from her, or picking her up, moving her somewhere else, and then walking away from her. It's showing her that I don't mean her any harm. If I did, I certainly wouldn't move her away from me. I'd go towards her and attack or something. But so doing the behavior of moving towards her and then moving away from her is showing her that I don't mean her any harm. And so one of the things she does a lot is to go hide, try to hide behind boxes and things. So I just go calmly, pick her up, bring her back out where she's out in the open, not allowed to hide like that. So I didn't take her very far from where I brought her out. I just took her out, saying, you're not going to hide behind those things. But at the same time, I don't need to be right next to you. I'm not going to come after you. So I just put her down right next to those boxes where she tried to go in. And as you saw there, she kind of stayed out, looked around, and then came over to me. So the coming over to me part is pretty much a second stage uh, of this practice. The first being going up to her, showing her that I can approach her a bunch of times and I'm not going to hurt her, and I'm going to walk up to her and then I'm going to maybe turn around and walk away, or pet her and then walk away, or pick her up and move her somewhere else and then walk away. So the second part of it is getting her to come over to me. So after a while of doing the process of going up to her and petting her and then walking away from her, she'll start to realize that you're not going to do her any harm, and she'll start to be more curious about you and be more interested in you. So one of the things to keep in mind when you're doing this is to be in an area, if you can, that's not very interesting. So if I try to do this outside with all the smells and all the activities and things going on out there, there's a lot for her to focus on other than me. But in this room, it's fairly boring. There's some smells on the ground, but there's not a lot other than me and her in the room of interest. So again, here I'm just trying to move away from her as much as I can, get her to come over to me. And if she doesn't, I'll go up to her, pet her a little bit, and then turn around and walk away, or pick her up and put her somewhere else and walk away. So it's a back and forth thing. She's coming to me sometimes she isn't. But when she does, I'll pet her a little bit and then get up and move away from her, or pick her up, put her somewhere else. So it's just a back and forth thing. I'm approaching her, she's approaching me. So by her approaching me, she's doing the behavior of approaching something that she once feared. And by me approaching her, I'm showing her that a behavior or a action that she once feared, which is someone coming up to her, is not going to result in her being harmed at all. So you see, it works
Getting
pretty
there.
quickly. This is
Yeah, getting there. You're like,
probably 10 or 15 minutes into
yeah.
working with her. And in her cage, she
That's
was
right.
about as scared as she can be at first. So this is really good
Yeah,
progress so
get up.
far
Yeah.
in a pretty short time frame, just from those two things. Now she's actually
Yeah.
coming up and climbing up onto me, which is really good. She's curious, like she should be.
Mira.
And I'm just petting her, kind of
Yeah.
trying to do like maybe a mother would do, which is not necessarily very
Big doggy,
soft.
huh?
Um,
Big doggy.
Mother doesn't have to coddle the puppy. She's very direct with them, picks them up by the scruff of her neck, which I don't do, but it just goes to show you that you can put a little pressure into your petting, squeezing and you know kind of like this, a massage without scaring them, because that's something they should be okay with as puppies. So again, I keep moving away from her, calling her over
Yeah.
to me. And we're not teaching obedience here. So if I call her over
Yeah.
by making a kissing noise or anything else and she doesn't come
That's
over,
right.
it's not a big deal. It's not like I need to correct her from not being
Mira.
obedient, because this is not obedience training. This is getting her to do the behavior of coming up to someone that she was once scared of. So if you call her and she doesn't come over to you, no big deal. Go pick her up, then put her down and walk away from her. Now here is the last interaction I had with her where she started to become more playful. So I've just been doing the same thing, petting her, moving away from her, calling her over to me.
Mira.
So again, she's curious, climbing up on me.
Yeah.
And you'll see her playing here in a little bit.
Yeah. It's my girl, huh? Yeah. Yeah, take care of this. Mira. Then I made the video of you.
So I'm gonna get up and walk away,
Okay.
call her over, and look at this.
Come on, here.
Races up, wanting to play. So this is
Yeah.
big progress
Oh,
in
get it.
pretty short amount of time,
Oh,
just by doing
yes.
the process of going towards her, showing her there's nothing bad gonna happen when I go towards her, getting her to come over to me, which shows her that nothing bad happens when she approaches me. So whether I approach her or she approaches me, she knows that nothing bad's gonna happen. So that's basically the theory of what the process is. Just those two things, which are major things, but just addressing those two things can make a really
Get up.
quick improvement in a frightened dog like this.